The Honourable Ben Dawkins.
Thanks, President. Today, I believe that a bill was put read into the lower house. It's the Birth, Deaths and Marriages Registration Bill. It caused me to reflect, President, on the fact that biological sex is a fact, and that you cannot change it.
Order. Just one moment, member, with your point of order. Honourable member, you are not able in your contributions to allude to debate that is occurring in the other place. Just one moment, I need to get some... Member, that bill is currently being debated in the other place. What you may do is comment broadly on the content. We don't have a standing order in relation to alluding to debate in the other place. And as the bill is not listed on our notice paper yet, my strong advice to you is not to discuss the specific content of the bill, but keep your comments to very broad issues in relation to the matter rather than the bill itself.
Thank you.
Just one moment, Honourable Member. I do have a point of order holding.
President,
the Honourable Kate Dowse.
President, you've absolutely satisfied what would have been my point of order.
Thank you. The Honourable Ben Dawkins.
I won't make any references to that bill other than to say, from a definitional point of view, this might be useful, what I'm about to say, for reasons that will become apparent later. So I'd like to quote on this point from the Clinical Advisory Network, who say, no, humans cannot change sex, which was determined at fertilisation. This is the genotype, and during the embryonic development, which is a phenotype stage. People may change many features about their lives, such as their interests, hobbies, diets, friends or careers. However, some facts are unalterable. A person's genetic inheritance, their biological sex, is an immutable characteristic. It is possible to change a person's outward appearance, including bodily features, clothing, makeup and prostheses might be used by some people to modify how they look. Generally speaking, there are two biological human sexes, males and females. There are exceptions. That is what is described as intersex. Intersex is a biological term that describes people with genetic anomalies. The amount of people who fit this biological category is not entirely clear. Estimates range from maybe 1.7% of the population to as low as 0.18% of the population.
The Honourable Sally Talbot on a point of order.
What the member is talking about, but I'm wondering whether he's actually quoting from a document. Could I ask that the document be tabled, please?
Honourable Member, the member has requested that the document you are reading from be tabled, unless it's extensive personal notes.
I'm very happy to table the document. I have here the URL. I don't have the physical document. Maybe the staff can print off once they get to that URL. Sorry, that was a quotation that
right.
The Honourable Sally Talbot picked me up on.
Okay, so it's not clear that that was a quotation.
Oh well.
Perhaps we'll ask you to continue your contribution. At the end of the contribution, you may wish to provide information for the tabling of that document, because, as you know, a URL can't be tabled.
No problemo. Thank you, President. So now that we have addressed intersex people, we can focus on the two biological sexes, male and female. Here are some differences between biological males and biological females. According to the US Institute of Health, males and females differ in bone density, and I quote, and we can table this document if it is wished to be the case. In summary, despite comparable body size, males have greater BMC and BMD than females at the hip and distal fibula, or tibia, sorry, but not at the spine. Differences in BMC and BMD were related to greater cortical thicknesses in the tibia. We conclude that differences in bone mass and geometry confer greater skeletal integrity in males, which may contribute to a lower incidence of stress and orthopaedic fractures in males. Another way that biological males and females differ is brain structure, with males and females being wired differently, which results in men and women having different strengths, speaking in general terms. The last example I will provide is the heart, where the Cardiology Associates of Michigan state there are several differences between the size and function of men and women's hearts. Following are several of the most notable ones. Size, by ratio, a women's heart and some of its chambers are smaller. Density, the walls that divide some of the chambers are thinner and the veins are finer. Function, a women's heart pumps faster than a man's, but a man's heart ejects more blood with each pump. And also stress reaction. Stress causes women's pulse rates to rise, leading to more blood being pumped. For men, arteries constrict, leading to a rise in blood pressure. There is a document that can be tabled if it's so wished as well, which I have the URL here. Was reading from. Medicine can help you to mimic the opposite sex but not completely convert you to it. People can elect to have surgical procedures. However, they are merely cosmetic surgery procedures. Biological sex is important in medicine. Otherwise, how do we effectively and efficiently treat people? It matters in medicine if you're male or female. It matters in relation to drug dosage, accurate and timely diagnoses and preventative care. I quote again from the Clinical Advisory Network based in Singapore. It is important for healthcare practitioners to note that while a biological sex change is impossible, legal sex can be changed. Government and healthcare service policies do allow people to change their sex marker or gender marker on official documentation.
Order, member. The Honourable Sally Talbot on a point of order.
Thanks, President. President, I would ask you to consider once again how it could possibly be construed that what the Honourable Ben Dawkins is trying to talk about doesn't have a direct reference to something that's happening in the other place. It's so obvious.
I haven't mentioned it.
The entire content of what he's talking about is about what's happening in the other place.
So, Honourable Member, the point of order that you might have been referring to was about allusion to debate in the other place. That no longer stands in our standing orders. But again, I invite the Honourable Member, as that bill is yet to be debated in this place, though it does not appear on the notice paper, he may wish to keep his comments to a broad nature rather than the specifics of what likely will be contained in the bill. In addition to that, I will actually also invite the member to, at the conclusion of your speech, to table the document from which you are quoting, because I am hearing that there is a substantial lot of quotations, and I'm assuming what you're currently reading is still a quote. So at the end of your contribution, I invite you to table the document from which you are quoting. Back to the Honourable Sally Talbot. There is no point of order, though I have invited the member to keep his contributions broad. The Honourable Ben Dawkins.
Thank you, President. I know the honourable members to my left like to talk about sport and the Matildas and things, so we're getting on to something a bit lighter in my speech, so that might satisfy a few people. Biological sex is important in women's sport in terms of safety and fairness in competition. Here are some examples. Serena Williams, who some argue is the greatest tennis player of all time, had this to say when declining a challenge from Andy Murray. Because, this is a quote, because for me tennis and men's tennis and women's tennis are completely, almost two different separate sports. So I'm like, if you were to play Andy Murray, I would lose 6-0, 6-0 in 5 to 6 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. It's true, it's a completely different sport. The men are a lot faster and they serve a lot harder, they hit hard. It's just a different game. And I love to play women's tennis, and I only want to play girls because I don't want to be embarrassed. So Andy, no, I'm not going to let you kill me, end of quote. The US national soccer team, women's soccer team, has been beaten by the under-15 and under-15 boys team 5-2 in an exhibition match. In the UFC, transgender fighter called Fallon Fox cracked the skull of a biological female in the first 10 seconds of the fight. Biological sex is important in society, providing safe spaces for women, privacy and dignity. Ancient cultures also recognise that biological sex is a critical fact, as evidenced by secret men's and secret women's business in many Indigenous cultures. People can dress and act like they wish and should be able to live freely without fear. In some instances, biological sex and the way it helps our society operate is much more important than how an individual feels. Some people suffer from gender dysphoria and they should be treated with empathy and cared for. But there is also an element of social contagion happening here. Impressionable children throughout time have often sought out ways to rebel and seek attention. But the best way to deal with any difficult situation is to be honest and truthful. We need to be clear that you can identify in whatever way you want, but you can't change biological facts. So here we are. I'm wondering, when my motion on this same point came before the House, why it was so controversial. Maybe some of the more fragile members even were...
The Honourable Pierre Yang on a point of order.
President, thank you very much. I refer to Standing Order 41, reflection on vote of Council. The Honourable Member clearly referring to the motion previously before the House, I think, during the last sitting week, and the member is now making reflection on the vote of Council. You did. You did.
It became controversial.
You did.
Order.
No, it didn't.
Order. Order. A point of order is not debatable and we don't need cross-chamber intervention. I'm just going to seek some advice on this. That's just one moment. It's not what I heard. I didn't hear him. And vote, yes. Yes, that's right. Yeah. When you're ready, Honourable Member. The contribution the Honourable Member made, I did not hear him reflect on the actual vote. His order, points of order are not debatable, nor is the President's ruling. What I heard was the words controversial. The allusion may be controversial in relation to in or out of the chamber. There is no point of order. The Honourable Ben Dawkins.
Thank you, President. Yes, it was controversial. Some of the more fragile members of the chamber actually seem to think that it...
The Honourable Matthew Swinburne on a point of order.
I think this point of order should stand about reflections on other members. Name calling, of which the member just engaged in, is unnecessary and unparliamentary. And I ask that he withdraw his remark and that if he's refusing that member, President, that you rule on it.
The honourable member is referring to Standing Orders 43 and 44, and in which the member is required to refer to other members by their title, and or some members may consider the words used offensive, in which case it is clear that some members have considered the words used offensive, and I invite the member to withdraw those words.
I will withdraw the word fragile, President. Is that okay? Withdrawn?
I invite you to, you used a number of other words, I invite you to withdraw all of the words.
Withdraw. I'll withdraw the
Thank you.
offensive
The
words.
Honourable Ben Dawkins.
So it was controversial, and in fact some members, honourable members, said they were disgusted by what was simply a statement of fact. So there is a bit here that which I'll remove because it was effectively may have been alluding to something that I'm not allowed to allude to. Thank you. So I'll move on. The Honourable Dan Caddy doesn't need to tell us any of the things he talks about in this chamber, but he does. Perhaps instead of whining a couple of weeks ago, people could look at the definitions which I'm speaking about today, and it may assist in future debates, particularly where it relates to gender and biological sex.
Order. The Honourable Stephen Dawson on a point of order.
Point of order, President. I understand that the honourable member is reading, and Standing Order 36 relates to the reading of a speech, and so I'd ask that you rule on that and ask the honourable member not to be reading a speech today.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Member has been provided with advice in the past regarding the standing order. I also consider that the Honourable Member is ad-libbing on occasions, but I have noticed substantial referral to extensive notes. On this occasion, I will ask the member to consider that standing order, continue with his contribution in as much as possible. The Honourable Ben Dawkins.
I'm almost finished learning and being enlightened so much today. Thank you, President. So we don't need to continue for much longer. But I could actually keep just talking like the Honourable Dan Caddy, but maybe I'll just cut to the chase. Yeah, I've got a minute, so maybe that's what we seem to do, is use up time. Anyhow, again, because of the misinformation that is perpetrated by an incompetent government, our children are left exposed to propaganda, which is sending them down a path which is very harmful to these children, and it is potentially doing damage to these children because the damage which is irreparable, and an incompetent government is unable to get the terminology right, and accept fact. Unable to accept fact. So maybe if the government was to be competent, they could actually make a distinction between gender, which people adopt traits, and biological sex, which is immutable.
Order. Honourable Member, I invite you to table the document as discussed.